Welcome to Impact the World, the show for and about creatives, changemakers, and entrepreneurs. This is a conversation episode where a special guest shares with me what they are creating and the behind-the-scenes journey of their experience. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Impact the World, where my guest is Salvador Santana. Salvador has been creating music since he was little, and over the last couple of decades, he has performed musically on stages and also on recordings. And he brings a ton of consciousness to his music as a spoken word artist and an instrumentalist. But music runs in his family. His father, the celebrated guitarist Carlos Santana, is just one of his influences. In this conversation, I learn not just about the incredible imprint that his grandfathers, who were both celebrated musicians in their own right, have made on his life, but also the lineage from his mother and his grandmothers, and really how he has become what I experience as a very conscious spiritual force. He has a lot of humility. He is really wanting to be the change in the world. And he shares a great story around relax, believe, and enjoy, some wisdom that he learned from a friend that still imprints everything he does. So enjoy today's conversation with Salvador Santana. As ever, in the show notes, you will find all links to Salvador's various work, including his brand new company, VAYA. And if you are a fan of this show, it really supports us as an independent show if you hit subscribe on YouTube if you're watching, or if you're listening, to subscribe, rate, and review us over at Apple Podcasts. But for now, here is Salvador Santana, and we hope you enjoy. Salvador, thank you for being here with us and for all that you do in the world, because it's so interesting in taking a look at your history and the work that you've done and the work that you do now. It's a very varied palette, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of it. But, you know, I've been listening a lot in the last couple of days to Fantasy Reality, which was your last full-length release.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really love about your music is you've got conscious lyrics with hip-hop spoken word and deep musicality. And one of the things I find with a lot of the hip-hop I hear, I love the music if the words were different. Like sometimes the words can be very edgy or very kind of a certain vibe.
Yeah.
But what I love listening to your stuff is just the positivity in the lyrics and all the good vibes that you want to bring. So is that something that you developed later in life with spoken word and that kind of lyrical music? Because I know you've been in music since you were little.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Lee, for having me here. I'm just honored and grateful to be here, first and foremost. Spoken word and lyrics, hip hop, that entire genre of being able to express yourself rhythmically and vocally, that whole art form has been in my life, man, since I can remember, growing up in San Francisco Bay Area in the 80s and 90s especially. Hip hop was definitely everywhere, and I was kind of young to understand exactly everything that was going on, but I couldn't not listen to it, and I couldn't not hear the rhythms that, like you said, were coming from the beats and the instrumentals, the stuff that makes you want to nod your head, as well as the lyrics that the different artists and vocalists and spoken word artists were saying and talking about. Like Tupac for me was huge, and especially him being from the Bay Area. Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Common Sense, Hieroglyphics, Living Legends, Loonies, E40. Now I'm getting into the whole Bay Area, Bay Area vibe. But man, like it's always been there, Lee. And even listening to like cats that don't even really affiliate themselves with hip hop, they're strictly spoken word, like a Saul Williams, or somebody like you said. It has to not only be the instruments and the instrumentals don't only just have to make your head nod, and you feel the vibe, you feel the rhythm, but like you said, the lyrics have to make you think and have to make you feel something. You know, you have to really feel something. And that for me is what drew me into hip hop, and just the idea of putting words in rhythm with meaning underneath, or combined with music, you know, and a really amazing beat or an instrumental. A bed is what I call it, you know, and then you can just allow the spoken word or the words themselves to just kind of dance on this bed, if you will. And so I've been involved with that, or in love with that, rather, man, since I can remember. So.
Well, it kind of makes sense hearing you describe it that way, because of course your main instruments from when you were younger, it was drums and keys and piano, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a really interesting fusion. Tell us about how, I mean, I know music has been part of your life because you come from a musical family, like and generations of music.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. So yeah, so your dad, Carlos Santana, is he 10-time Grammy-winning, world celebrate? You know, kind of the yeah. I mean, we
something like that. Last time I checked, he just calls himself the Mexican, you know,
right,
or whatever. And for me, he's just dad.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And to speak on that, you know, the family, for me, it goes deeper than just my father. Both my grandfathers were musicians. My maternal grandfather, Saunders King, incredible blues guitarist, jazz guitarist as well, singer, preacher in the gospel, and was a big band leader, and was performing and working during a time, you know, being African American, you know, performing and trying to play music and be as creative as he was, and incredible and trailblazing as he was. You know, it was hard. Segregation, racism. Yeah. I think there was a story of my grandfather, Saunders King, where he was asked to perform at this spot in Tennessee or somewhere down there, and the promoter said he would only be able to play if they could put a rope down the, you know, the dance floor, so that the whites and the blacks could. Yeah, and my grandfather was like, "No, then I'm not playing."
Good for your grandfather.
And so, you know, hearing stories like that, and my other grandfather, Don Jose Santana, El Faro, mariachi violinist, mariachi band leader, incredible singer. I mean, just my dad jokes all the time, and he says that people come up to him all the time and they say my dad's great and everything, but they just love my grandfather. They just loved Don Jose, and Don Jose, when he would sing all these songs, Bésame Mucho, and he would sing at the La Cantina or all these spots, like those. It just reminds me of how impactful my grandfathers were with their music and with their art, and just how it's in my blood, man. It's in the family lineage. It's just in my DNA. It's who we are. It's who I am, and I know it's who my son is going to be too as he gets older and everything. So family lineage, music.
So when you were little, I mean, I'm guessing that was just in all the rooms you were in, and is that how you found your way into your own musicality?
Oh, you know, I don't think there was a particular like defining moment. I think it was more just the consistency of being in a household where music was constantly playing or being discussed, or, you know, my father would, sometimes he would, I mean, the best education I got, I think, was when I was little. My dad would sit me down and he would put on these videos, beta, old school. I'm just dating myself right now. Betamax.
Betamax, right? Yeah, yeah.
Old school, and I even like VHS, like little VHS, Betamax of Miles Davis, Bob Marley, like these live at the time bootleg performances. And he would just sit there, watch the video, and he would jam to it. And I'd sit there with either my percussion instruments or a little tambourine or a little whatever, or I'd just sit and just watch and just absorb. And I think it was really just those moments of continuously just absorbing as much of what was being offered. I think that's what shaped me, my musicality, and just kind of emphasizing who I am and who I've always been. And I'm just grateful that my folks and my family and everybody that was, you know, in my life from early on up till now has always encouraged me to continue to do that. So I'm super grateful for that.
Awesome. And I know that you were on stage both with your dad and then also with your own band and various bands that you've had over the years.
Yeah.
So what is that experience like for you as being, you know, one of the conductors on a stage for this group prayer experience of music. I mean, I know we're talking about it a year and a half after most people haven't been able to go to live music concerts, but I'm wondering the spiritual experience of that for you. What is that like?
It's really hard to describe. I've been trying to describe it for years. I think it's like what a lot of people say. It's therapeutic. It's a rush, of course, performing on stage, and whether it's, for me, my whole mindset is whether it's 5, 15, 50, 500, 5,000. It keeps going on and on. It's been instilled in me from day one, from my father and all the artists and mentors that he's had over the years. It's been instilled in me to bring 150% on stage with everything you got. Not play like there's no tomorrow, literally, but yeah, in a way, kind of put yourself in that mindset. Like, this is the last opportunity you have, so give it everything you got, leave it all out there. And most importantly, something that a good friend of mine, he just recently passed away, 92 years old, amazing life. We used to play basketball together, even at 90, 91, during the pandemic and everything. He would invite me out to go down to the local park, and we'd just go and shoot some hoops and play basketball. It was really cool. And there was one day where I was just shooting, and I was just, getting into the groove of things. And he looked at me, he was like, "You need to relax." And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm shooting, the ball's going in." He's like, "No, your body language, you're too stiff. You need to relax. When you relax, you can do so much more. So relax." And then he had a hat on that said "believe." So he said, "Relax, believe, and enjoy." And I go, "Whoa, Mr. Kurt, you just gave me one," like I get goosebumps just talking about it. I was like, you just gave me one of the keys to life. Like, you just gave me the key to life, literally." And he's like, "One of them." And I'm like, "Oh man, don't do that to me." But that's what you got to do too when you're performing, or even in this moment, whatever you're doing, there's a tempo, there's a rhythm, and there's an energy. And as long as that energy is relaxed and is comfortable, you can still be intense. You can still handle it with a level of intensity, but of passion. But as long as you're relaxed, man, you can, as an artist, you feel like you can do whatever you want. You know? And for me, along with that rush, and along with that confidence, not arrogance, with that confidence, man, it's like I said, that's the best way I can describe it. The enjoyment and seeing the looks on people's faces when you sing a note or you perform something, and you can see how the impact on their face. I've gotten to perform on stage and witness audience members laugh, cry, and show all sorts of different types of expression, enthusiasm, all at the same time. So for me, Lee, like, just, this is why we do what we do. This is why I do what I do, is to remind people to awaken their own inner light and their own inner energy and their own, just that connection with themselves. Because we tend to really lose that. Like you said, pandemic, life itself, we just get so busy with certain things, we forget to really just check in with ourselves sometimes. And I think what better way to do that than through art and through music and performance and what have you. So
true. And it's interesting, I know in recent years you've actually been scoring for film and television.
Yeah.
And I've always loved soundtracks, and I think before I understood why, it was because they were always the emotional movement and the emotional connector for me in television or film.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting now that you're able to bring that to a medium that I think probably a lot of us have seen more of in the last year and a half than ever before, because it's been the one kind of source of, storytelling or entertainment in that way.
Yeah. Like you said, since the pandemic has started, I've definitely, one of the bummers has been, performing less. I've had opportunities to perform, and obviously doing it safely and, consciously, and just being mindful of everything that's still out there. But again, like what Mr. Kurt said, don't forget to relax, believe, and enjoy. We can still do that in the midst of everything as we continue to navigate through all this. But also one of the blessings is, like you said, we just adapt. We don't turn over and submit and just admit defeat or what have you. Like, in my DNA and just my family and what they've taught me, and seeing everything that they've gone through, not seeing, but hearing a lot of the stories and sometimes witnessing a lot of what they've gone through, like it just reminds me like, yo, we just keep moving forward. You
Totally.
know? And with that said, during a pandemic, there were opportunities that came on my desk to be able to just start, little scoring here and there for commercials, then for a little indie film here, and then had an opportunity to score this super awesome film called Pink Opaque. Actually, it just came out. It's on Amazon. Everyone if you get a chance, check it out.
Pink Opaque.
Yeah, and it's starring Elijah Booth, who was in Legion, I believe, and I got affiliated with it because of my good homie, Daniel Chaffin. We went to Cal Arts together. We went to college together. One of the first people I met at Cal Arts in college, and we stayed connected all these years. And just one day out of the blue, he hit me up on old school. I don't even think people use Facebook anymore. He just hit me up on Facebook. I never go on there. And just something told me to go on there one day, check my messages. He hit me up, and it was so good to hear from him. And next thing I know, he invited me to start scoring a film that he became associate producer on.
Great.
And so next thing, that's what I mean. We just adapt. We keep moving forward. We appreciate and we honor the opportunities that are here.
And is that quite intuitive for you? So when you're scoring the movie, is it or the TV show, is it a very intuitive process? Are you trying to fit the story that you've been given a brief of, or is it very much you're watching the image and you're just feeling what needs to be felt as you're composing?
It's definitely more of of what you described
Yeah.
the second time. Definitely more of just watching, listening, observing, seeing the movement of the characters, or just the movement of whatever's going on visually. You just want to match that. And depending on who you're working with, there's some directors or producers or people that, and look, I'm an artist. I think we all have this sometimes. I try not to use the word suffer, but I think we all have this sometimes where we get demo-itis. Once we hear, once we put a template music in there, then it's like, oh, we hear that, we become married to it. So some directors and producers, they got something in their head and they want me to recreate that. So nobody's got to pay for rights or anything to use the original songs. Or sometimes I'll work with some producers or directors and they just give me a blank canvas, musically. They have the visuals and everything, but it's like watching a movie on mute. And then you have to kind of produce what I'm hearing in my head, and with that, for me, the creative process for that requires a lot of patience, because I have so many ideas going on, and it's my job to make sure that I have the patience and the presence of mind to be able to hone in and capture all those ideas, honor all those ideas, and then once I, mess with them or tinker with them, then I'll start doing the whole edit process of like, oh, this was a cool idea then, but it's not really working right now, kind of thing.
Right.
Or, hey, you know what, that was cool. I threw that away. Actually, no, that's cool. Let me throw that back in there, And just kind of each project is different, and I think that's what's so cool. Just like children, or just like people, individuals, we're all human, but we all have these individual, unique qualities, and I think it's the same thing when you're scoring. Each project is different, so I try to come at it with the same mindset, but then also honor the individuality for each project.
Yeah. And another thing that you have gone into in the last couple of years that I think is a very emerging field at the moment is the field of cannabis.
Yeah.
And one of the things I found most interesting about your company, so your company is VAYA.
Yes.
I mean, there are a couple of different things about it. Number one, the way you run the company culture and the ethos of the company is one thing. But something you said really struck me. You talked about when you were younger, you were around cannabis use and it was just normalized for you because of the artists, the celebrities that you said you were around. And then as you got a bit older, your eyes were opened to the amount of injustices that were going on around it. Whatever you can share about that would be great, because when I heard you talk about that, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, for anyone who is new to this, it might be interesting to learn about it.
Thank you for bringing all that up, Lee. Yeah, absolutely. And cannabis, first and foremost, has always been an interest and a passion of mine. I think it just kind of goes hand in hand with music and with artists and all that kind of stuff, or there's at least the opportunity for it to go hand in hand. And yeah, you're right. For me, at a young age, maybe it's because of the household I was in, the artists that were around, the groups of musicians, the time period, the location, growing up again in the San Francisco Bay Area. I think just a combination of all those things. And then also too, just, I guess again, just having, like you were saying before, the elders or the adults in my life at that time too, and still now, never really, introduced or showed me that cannabis was like taboo, or that it was bad, that it was the boogeyman, it was something that you need to fear, that was something, even especially during the 80s and the 90s when there was that DARE program and trying to keep everybody away from that stuff, even though crack was all over the streets. And they would show a DARE commercial and then they'd show a Budweiser commercial right after that,
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So, but like beyond that, it was never, like you said, it wasn't even just that it was normalized, because what's normal nowadays? It was more, it was just like, yo, like it's no different than having someone sitting down just having a beer.
But that's a really good point, and that's something I didn't understand until I was kind of in my 20s, when someone said to me, well, isn't it interesting that, all of these people are going to jail for really minimal cannabis offenses, and over here you've got alcohol-related incidents, abuses, all kinds of stuff. Why is one used to criminalize and the other not? And that was the first time that something clicked in my mind around the paradox of it.
Absolutely. And I can't say again that there was a defining moment, but like you, I had one of those, like, what the heck is going on? And why is this blatant hypocrisy not being addressed like it should be being addressed, And so for me, again, like, whether it's cannabis use or just in the business of the industry, I felt like I've always surrounded myself and always have been around people that were not just pro-cannabis and advocates of the plant and the industry before, and now it's starting to become legalized. But just, like you said, understanding the fact that, I guess for me, I really just always honored and respected and viewed the plant and cannabis as more of a healing and medicinal opportunity and way of life. And that's where I thought, like you, that's where I was just like, I don't understand how people are cool with drunk driving over here, but then if somebody lights up a joint, it's like red flags, and like all of a sudden, like the sirens are going off and everyone's tripping out. Like it just never made sense to me. So to answer your question, at a young age, I remember telling myself, if I was to ever get involved in the cannabis industry in any way, shape, or form, legal or not. I mean, when I was younger, legalization was still just like a thought, or an idea. It wasn't, like it is now. But I just told myself I want to do something like you guys, impact the world. I want to be pro-change. I want to help rearrange the narrative and the views and the perspectives on the plant itself, and also too, like the decriminalization of it as well, especially with Black and brown women, LGBTQ. We can all get a piece. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is to make something like the cannabis industry, of all the things, it doesn't have to be so like white, corporate, and what have you, and make it more of what I've always seen it as. And because when I was younger, I got to hang around people that were part of this, which was more community, more social equity, more building each other up, and let's all do this together, and we can all get a seat at the table rather than trying to cut each other out and what have you. So that's what I've been aligning myself with, and I'm just so grateful that between myself, my CMO, Vincenzo Carano, the Italian stallion is what I call him, he's been holding everything down for me, and together we make a great team, plus our cultivator, Deji, as well, Simmons, up in Oakland, California, holding it down between us three and a couple of others. But between us three, man, we've been making what my grandfather said, Saunders King, we're all here to make spiritual traction. And right now, VAYA is making some spiritual traction. And for that, I'm super grateful. And who would have thought, man, that during a pandemic, I would have thought it'd be a great idea to start a cannabis business, and it's working, and people are liking it and digging it. And it just makes me really happy. And
But
I
I
wanna do
love
more.
that because I feel like so many people in this past 18 months have done things they didn't expect or wouldn't have done otherwise. So you're
Absolutely.
just another testament
I
to
am.
that story.
No better time than
yeah.
now, right? You know?
What has surprised you about being involved in running a company? Like, have there been any learning lessons that you weren't expecting? Because I think going into something like this, there's all kinds of fears or hopes or dreams we can have, but what has surprised you about the reality of running a company like this?
That's a great question. Man, there's a lot of things. First and foremost, it's just the it's not a surprise, but it's more like, oh man, I didn't realize how much you have to keep up with in the cannabis. And what I mean by that is the rules, the regulations, oh, it's not legal to, oh, now it's legal to do that. Let's hop
Right.
on it. Like, you know,
I've heard this. I've heard this from a
you
friend
know,
who works in it too. Yeah.
you just have to be ready and stay ready, I guess, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Learn as much as you can, and then there's times where you got to learn something. And being a new parent, you know, my son just turned 3. You learn something, and then you learn it, you do it for routine, and then you get to a certain point where you got to forget that. You got to move on to something else, and that's kind of another thing too, where there's these challenges and these surprises. But these are great challenges. These are great opportunities, you know, for myself to just be in this position to just do this, to be. I'm not a boss, man. I'm a leader. You know, to be a leader of a company and to be participating in this movement of, again, rearranging the narrative of the overall perception of the plant. Because for me, that's why I wanted to start VAYA in the first place, was again to honor, look, the world that we live. She's, you know, Mother Earth. You know, the plant itself, Mary Jane. She's feminine. You know, I feel like it's all just comes back to this really incredible feminine empowerment, you know, and I wanted to honor that, be mindful of that, teach others that aren't aware, and then remind others that once knew but maybe forgot a little bit, like we all sometimes do, and just bring it back to the whole idea of these and this wisdoms and philosophies that our ancestors had and practiced and did, and combining that with, you know, modern medicine and science and the information we have now. And that's what we're doing with VAYA. And again, the challenges, the enjoyment, each and every time, I will say this, outweigh the challenges. For me, at the end of the day, as long as you can end each sentence with "it's worth it," then it's not really a challenge for me. It's more just like, hey, let's go for it, let's get it, you know, kind of thing. So overall, it's been like that for me, other than just the constant learning, all this information, rules, regulations, fill out these applications. I don't know what this means, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
Other than that type of stuff, and I was never really like good at test taking or studying for tests and stuff like that. So, you know, that stuff just kind of is extra challenging for me. But other than that, these are great challenges for me, and I'm grateful for them.
Well, I love the metaphor you made, like, because it is true. A growing business and a growing child are kind of the same thing. As in, you know, you get a system down, and then the child is older, and the system changes.
Yes.
Or with the business too, you get it down, and then something changes or grows or happens in the world, and you have to kind of start all over again.
Exactly. You can't get complacent. You really can't. And that's a good thing, though. It keeps me on my toes. Again, I've been playing basketball, boxing more. My son's teaching me to, man, you got to keep up, because this boy has energy for days, man. So I just got to keep up. And everything I do is for him, and everything I do is to remind him and honor those that work so hard to, you know, provide the life that I could live and that my son could live and everything. And for me, that's really what it boils down to, and that's why every morning we get up. I get my son. My ritual is I try to get up every morning about an hour before my son does. It never happens, but I try, and you know, I'll go make a little coffee or tea, depending on if I'm doing vocals or not. Go into the studio, which is, you know, in the garage, the kitchen, outdoor garage, and I just listen to some music, vibe out to some Herbie Hancock. Being a keyboard player, that's my dude. I can go on and on for days about, you know, Herbie, Keith Jarrett, McCoy Tyner, Chick Corea. I can go on and on, but I won't bore y'all. But I'll listen to stuff like that for inspiration, maybe work on something I was working on the night before, create high, and then next morning edit sober, and you know, that'll be a surprise. Sometimes you mentioned surprises, that's a surprise. Sometimes I'll be listening, I'll be like, man, what was I thinking? I think I had a little too much VAYA last night, you know, or sometimes I'm like, man, that was cool. I didn't have enough. I need to have some more, you know. It just depends. And that's my ritual. I'll get up and I'll just try to just set the tone for the rest of the day, enjoy music or create a little bit, and then I'll be in the right mindset to get my son up and we can do our little gratitude. It's not a prayer, but it's just a little affirmation, a little gratitude thing that we say every morning, just thanking the Creator for this beautiful day. Every day with this beautiful boy is the best day ever, and we want to share that with everybody else, and we're just grateful for another glorious day. That's really what it comes down to.
You know, it's funny, Salvador, because we met a few months ago, and
feels like forever.
It does. I mean, maybe it was, oh God, who knows? Maybe it was 6 months ago now, I don't know. But I feel one of the things that has struck me the most with you, just as a person and as a being, and then now hearing you talk about your son in the way you're talking about your son, I don't know if I've met somebody who has such an active embodiment of legacy. You know, and I also know your mom is a complete badass. Like she's doing, you know, and she's this incredible advocate. I mean, even just going and having a look at her website is a whole other world.
Yeah.
So I look at all of these figures that you've mentioned who are, you know, your elders or the friends who are your elders that you were mentioning, your 92-year-old friend.
Mentors, inspiration, yeah.
But I really feel that with you, and you talk about it and you talk to it, and then now your son. And it's interesting because when I first looked at the VAYA website, you know, you've packaged the product beautifully and you talk about the spiritual nature of the product. But what really hit me was when you go and look at your company mission and your ethos and how advocacy and inclusion and diversity and so much is woven into the website's energy and intent, which I think is huge. But
thank you.
You know, have you had that in you since childhood? And I'm curious how many other members of your family are just like you around that, or are you kind of, you know, a bit more unique in that shamanic way of holding lineage in your family's group?
Wow.
It's a big question. I'm just curious because it's so imprinted on you as a person. I'm like, is this just you, or is this how everyone in that family came out the box?
Man, that's a great question, and thank you for that. It's funny. I honor that. I just never really viewed it that way. I guess for me, it's just the one word that comes to mind when you were saying all that is just authenticity. I'm just being authentic. I'm just being not only true to myself, but being true to, again, those that, you know, I was raised by. I was raised by really, really strong women in my family. Really, really strong women. Both my grandmothers, my mom, like you said, total badass, but in a spiritual way. Spiritual badass. Do a Little. That's her website, her organization, and that's what was instilled in me, not just from my grandmothers and my mom and my aunties and all the strong women in my life, or in my family and in my life, but just being authentic, having again an incredible sense of enjoyment in what we do, and then also that enjoyment of being of service to others, especially those that are in need and deserve. You know, that's for me where not only the passion comes from, but it's just, I don't know, you put a fish in water and you just watch it swim. It's kind of one of those things. It just feels natural. So that's one of those things where I want to just continue to instill in my son and the, you know, this current and future generation that we have on deck and currently right now. And we see a lot of them from I don't want to mess up her name, the Greta Thunbergs of the world, and all these young activists. You know, they're just, man, inspiration is everywhere. I think you asked a question earlier about just where the music and creative inspiration comes from. Man, it can come from anywhere. Yeah. You know, and I think that's the other thing too, is the as long as there's that consistent honoring of those that came before me and the family, and like you said, the lineage, not even really just the lineage, but just the family history and just who we are, the authenticity of who we are and the unique qualities that make up all of us. I can't speak for the rest of my family, but I know that, look, we're all cut from the same cloth, you know, so I think everything we do, there's a passion and a mission behind it. And like you said, you know, for VAYA, my cannabis company, as well as my music and creative art and expression, I'm always about diversity, of course, but for me, the bigger word is equality.
Yeah.
That's really what it is for me, man. I guess it came from, there wasn't, again, another or any particular defining moment, but I do remember a couple of times, even like just, we all were, like, to a point, being bullied in school, just because kids are mean, and what have you. Just those times where I was like, man, why are people picking on me? And it's so unfair. And then as I got older, like you said, I started seeing it different, not, living, but seeing and witnessing, observing other injustices on a more adult level. And I was just like, man, if I feel this way about how I feel, about people making me feel that, I can only imagine with somebody getting locked up for a dime bag of weed because of the color of their skin, and then somebody else making 10 million off of that. Like, so I was just like, okay, the mission is bigger than just what's at hand. It's more like it's a marathon, but this is what I've trained my whole life for. This is probably what I trained before I came to this planet. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm proud to do. This is what I enjoy doing. And I just look forward to continuing the process. And again, passing that same level of passion and energy and work ethic to my son. At the end of the day, I just want him to see that, dad works hard not so that he doesn't have to, but so that he can enjoy anything and everything he deserves in life. Just that simple.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's funny listening to Fantasy Reality driving here this morning. I'm again struck by just, I don't know, there is a very specific frequency that is very you. So even though there are other artists on that album, and there's some incredible vocalists as well, some of the women you have on those first few tracks are just awesome.
That record, really fast, that was with my last, technically my last incarnation of what was the Salvador Santana band, when I was performing more of my solo music, but with more of a band, I don't know, just some presentation, if you will. And Alex Nestor, she was the vocalist, the lady singing on, I think, the entire record. And then it was produced by myself and my guitar player at the time, Jared Meeker, and then also my drummer at the time, Blake Coley, and myself, Jared, and Blake, all at different times we went to Cal Arts. So it's that Cal Arts, San Francisco School of the Arts, California Institute of the Arts down here in LA connection. Even though I'm in LA and there's 8 million people out here, we still hang out with the same few people out here. Like I think we all are victims or accused of that. But that's really what it boils down to for me.
And it's funny because my favorite song on that album is probably the first one, and it's called "Be the Change." And that's really like a manifesto for the way that you're living.
And let's talk about it. Be about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So it's been great to have you here today. Thank you so much for being with us. Before we end our conversation, I'm just curious, what's next for you? I mean, I know you have VAYA. I know you have a 3-year-old. You're pretty busy, and you're doing all this musical
My wife is busy. I just come off the bench and I just help her when I can, man. She's the one who holds it down. I want to put that out there.
But what would you like to, if you were able to bring something else in, perhaps in the next few years, apart from the success of VAYA, the work that you already do musically, is there anything else that you would like to kind of see yourself manifest or create in the next 5 to 10 years?
Man, that's a great question.
And I won't hold you to it. Don't worry, I won't call you in 5 years. I'm just curious about the visionary in you right now.
It's not like me talking with, if I had, all these financial advisors. How do you project, your blah, blah, blah. It's not like that. I guess for me, it's continuing what we've been doing, continuing what I've been doing, continuing to create, evolve, and not play the same song twice, keep moving forward, creatively staying positive and motivated, inspired, because I just love the different responses and how the music that I'm able to express, how it makes me feel, and then seeing the reactions and hearing about the reactions from others. So definitely continuing to work on some more solo music, of myself, my projects, especially now that I have I wouldn't say more time, but now that I'm starting to get more into a groove of this continued navigating pandemic life that we're in, what have you. So definitely you can expect some new music from myself, some solo stuff that I've been working on, stuff that I've been wanting to release and get off my chest for a while. Also, I have my project that I've done with my good homie and brother, mi hermano, amigo, Asdru Sierra, lead singer from Ozomatli. We got our project together called the Remixicans.
And this, you released, I heard it's a great track. 2019?
Yeah.
You put a track out?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I heard that yesterday. It's really cool.
Thank you. So that's actually the more recent one that I did. Fantasy Reality was the last solo band thing I did, and then Remixicans is the last project that I did, the collaboration with Asdru. And that was so much fun, man, because we've been talking about doing that for years. And then finally we got together and we just kind of cranked it out in like we had a bunch of songs we were sitting on, and then we just decided to finish those and then write some new ones just to tie it all in together. And I'm glad we did, man, because I don't think it would have. I think it would have turned out differently if we waited to, put it out around the pandemic, or just, I'm glad it came out when it did. And funny story, a few months ago, my dad calls me randomly calls me. He says, "Hey, what is this?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what is what?" And he just puts the phone up to the speaker, and all I could hear was static. And he's like, "Is this you?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Dad. All I can hear is static. I can't really hear anything." And he's like, "No, I went on, I heard this song, and it was so cool, and I Shazammed it, and your face popped up." And I'm like, what is it? He says, he couldn't pronounce it. He said Remixicans or something. He couldn't say it. And I was like, "Oh, that's the Remixicans, Dad. That's the thing I did with Asdru." And he's like, "That's you guys?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, I love it so much. I'm putting this song on my next album."
Fantastic.
And so now the Remixicans is featured on my dad's current now, the album that he just put out. So that's an honor. And that's pretty cool that he vibed off of it and really dug it. And he said that was the correct energy he needed for this post-pandemic, or us where we are now, trying to peek our heads out of this thing, and just for where he's at and everything. So that was an honor.
I like that for some people, Shazam helps them identify their children.
Yeah, yeah, right. It was just funny too, because he put the phone up, and I wish I could play you guys what I heard. It was literally like, you might as well just go to like the LA Zoo and have all the animals sing at once or something. Like, that's what I was hearing. I was like, I don't know what you're playing me.
Brilliant.
But that was a beautiful honor. So more stuff like that, man. Scoring, continuing to score for film and television. Just stretching my muscles and expanding my web, broadening my portfolio. Saying yes to as many opportunities as possible from a musical and a creative standpoint, because for me, it's like, man, what an honor and a blessing it is to be able to, this is what I get to do for a living, you know? So there's that, and then with VAYA, same thing, just to continue to expand on what we have. I would like to have something, a little something for everybody, and that's who I am musically, that's who my family, and that's how they raised me to, just share all the unique qualities that you have, we have, the family has, and offer it all as much as you can. And again, relax, believe, and enjoy. So that's where I'm at, and that's what I look forward to doing, continuing to do.
It's been so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us, Salvador.
Appreciate it.
And
Absolutely.
good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Many more.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we will put links to Salvador's music, Salvador's website, and VAYA, his cannabis company, in the show notes. So whether you are watching on YouTube or whether you are listening on Apple Podcasts, check out the show notes for all links, and we will see you next time on Impact the World. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Lee. I'm an intuitive and a channeler, and I've been channeling now for 23 years. And the information and the energy that my guides have underscored my life with throughout those years has been very transformative for me. And for those of you who followed my work over the past 17 years or so, I know for many of you too. As I was visioning and doing a lot of deep diving this summer, really talking to my guides a lot through the month of August, They gave me the name Initiation as the name for a series of messages that they want to bring. Initiation will begin on October the 27th, and every Wednesday, live from this studio, I'll be channeling for approximately an hour to 75 minutes. I have asked my dear friend and sound healing collaborator Devor Bozique to create some original music encoded with planetary frequencies, but also frequencies that relate to our body that can run underneath each of the channels. And my guides, the Z's, have given us a written message about what initiation will be and what will take place during it. You can find that and all information about this experience on the course page. In between each of the live broadcasts, I will do a special calibration video that helps us at a human level calibrate to and integrate and absorb what each channeled message will be. This is different to anything I've ever done before. I can't wait to bring it to you, and neither can my team. If you feel to be with us for initiation, or you want to just get a sense of it, please visit the link below this video to learn more and to feel more and to see if it resonates with you. If so, we'd love to have you with us.